My parents banned me from their anniversary party. Hours later, my sister posted a photo of the celebration, and I froze. Every detail, the smiles, the champagne, the decorations, they were all enjoying the night I wasn't allowed to attend. And the caption made it worse. Family forever, #blessed night. My chest tightened, and I couldn't breathe, before I spiral into the anger. Hit that like button and subscribe, you won't believe what happens next. I had always been the one they dismissed. The useless daughter who didn't fit in, the one too quiet, too ambitious for their tastes. Mom said I overthought everything, and Dad called me dramatic. Even my sister Madison would laugh at my ideas, claiming I was living in a fantasy world. But that night, watching their happy pictures, I realized they had no idea what I had been building in silence. For years, I worked late nights, pouring myself into a project I never shared, an online business that was slowly turning into a full-blown empire. While they argued about trivial things and flaunted each other's favoritism, I was quietly creating a life they couldn't imagine. And now, seeing them celebrate without me, I felt a spark of satisfaction, because the tables were about to turn. I stared at Madison's post, her smug smile frozen in the frame, and I knew exactly how I would respond. Not with anger, not with tears, but with proof that I wasn't the ignored, powerless girl they thought I was. They were blind to my success, and it was almost too easy. Little did they know, by the end of this week, every smug laugh they shared in that photo would be replaced with shock they'd never forget. And the secret I'd been holding for years, it was ready to explode, and it would start with the anniversary they tried to erase me from. I spent the next morning scrolling through the party photos, pretending to be calm, but inside I was boiling. Every smile, every toast, every little detail felt like a challenge. You think you can ignore me? Watch this. I didn't need anyone's approval anymore because I already held all the power they refused to see. Madison had bragged about her engagement ring in one of the posts, showing off a tiny fortune I knew wouldn't last. My parents were fawning over her like she was perfect, and I realized just how blind they were to the real world. They had no idea that while they were celebrating and flaunting wealth that wasn't even mine, I had quietly secured investments, signed deals, and built an empire from scratch all under their noses. By lunchtime, I was drafting a plan. I'd show them my success, but it had to be dramatic, public, unforgettable. A simple post, a simple reveal, could turn the entire family's smug little world upside down. I smiled, almost laughing at the thought how delicious it would be to watch their faces when they realized the useless daughter they ignored for years was now untouchable. But just as I was finalizing my strategy, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number popped up. "Eliana, be careful. They know more than you think." My heart skipped a beat. I didn't recognize the number, but the warning was clear. Someone inside my family's inner circle, someone close, was already aware of my plans. I froze. For a moment, I considered backing down, hiding my success a little longer. But then I remembered every insult, every dismissive comment, every birthday they forgot. No, this was the moment to strike. And what they didn't know, the real shock wasn't just my success. It was the part that would hit them where it hurt the most. That evening, I showed up at my parents' house. Not invited, not expected, but I walked in like I owned the place. Madison's jaw dropped. The moment she saw me, her perfectly styled hair and flawless dress suddenly feeling absurd next to the quiet confidence I carried. Mom's smile froze, and Dad's face went pale. They thought I'd stayed away out of shame, but the truth was, I had arrived to rewrite their entire perception of me. I didn't waste a second. I pulled out my laptop and opened it, placing it boldly on the dining table. "Remember how you laughed at my useless little projects?" I asked, my voice calm, almost casual. "Well, this is one of them." I clicked a few buttons, and the screen lit up with numbers, charts, and logos they had never seen before. My business, my empire was now displayed for everyone. Revenue, partnerships, expansion plans, all real, all undeniable. Madison's smug expression faltered. "Wait, is that she stammered, but Dad interrupted, his voice shaky. Eliana, how? I smiled. Years of your ignorance. Dad, years of your favoritism. I didn't need your approval, and now I don't need your recognition, but I wanted you to see. My eyes met theirs and I could see the panic, the disbelief, the tiny crack in their perfect little family image. When I thought the shock had reached its peak, I dropped the next bomb. Oh, and by the way, the property you thought was too expensive for me, fully owned, no loans, no debts. Just me working silently while you all underestimated me, Mom gasped. Madison's face turned red, a mix of embarrassment and rage. Dad looked like someone had punched him square in the chest, but before anyone could speak, my phone buzzed again, a picture of the anniversary party, sent by an unknown number. Only this time, the photo included something I hadn't noticed before. Madison holding a small envelope, labeled with my name. My stomach sank. Someone was trying to play a game I hadn't even seen coming. I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling slightly as I opened the message. Inside was a photo of Madison handing over an envelope at the party, my name written in Dad's handwriting. My heart raced. They had tried to humiliate me, yes, but now it seemed they were trying something else. A trap, maybe, or a last ditch. Attempt to assert control. I didn't panic. Not yet. Instead, I smiled. This just made the game more interesting. I called my assistant on a secure line. Prepare the next move. Everything we discussed, full exposure. It's time they see the real me in front of everyone. Within minutes, notifications started appearing on social media. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers were tagging. My parents' account, sharing my success story, my achievements, my empire. Every mention, every comment was another reminder that the girl they ignored for years was now untouchable. Mom's hands shook as she held her phone, scrolling through notifications that seemed to multiply by the second. Eliana, what is this? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Madison stood frozen, the envelope forgotten on the table. I leaned in close and said, That envelope? It was supposed to be a symbol of your victory over me. Instead, it's going to show everyone how blind and petty you've been. The room fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. And just when I thought they might finally process the magnitude of what I had revealed, another notification appeared, this one from my lawyer. A legal document confirming my full ownership of the property, my business assets, and a new deal. They had no knowledge of. Dad's face went white. Mom's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Madison looked like she might cry, and then I realized something terrifying for them. While they were frozen in shock, the envelope still sat unopened. Inside was another secret I had kept for years, the one that would completely dismantle their sense of control. I picked up the envelope, letting the silence in the room stretch unbearably long. Madison's eyes were wide, trembling, and Mom's hands clutched the edge of the table like she could hold herself together. Dad's jaw was tight, his face pale. I slid the envelope across the table slowly, deliberately. Open it, I said, my voice calm but icy. Inside was a stack of documents, contracts, bank statements, and signed agreements proving that I had secretly acquired their most valuable property years ago. The house, the land, even the commercial properties they flaunted, they were mine. Every asset they had claimed pride in was under my name. Their entire image of superiority, their power, their bragging rights, evaporated in an instant. How? Dad stammered, voice breaking. Mom buried her face in her hands, unable to speak. Madison's cheeks flushed a deep red, and she looked like she had been caught in a nightmare she couldn't wake from. I leaned back, letting them absorb it, savoring the silence that finally felt like justice. You thought I was weak, I said, my eyes scanning each of them. You laughed at me, ignored me, tried to erase me from your lives. But while you celebrated, I built a life you couldn't even imagine. And now, I let a small, satisfied smile cross my lips. Everything you held over me is gone. Because I was never powerless. You just never saw it coming. They couldn't respond. Every smug remark, Every insult they had thrown at me for years had come back to them, magnified. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, complete liberation. Not just from their judgment but from the fear of being overlooked. I had turned the tables and I knew they would never look at me the same way again. Madison finally whispered. Barely audible. You won. I smiled, standing tall, every ounce of confidence radiating from me. No, Madison, I said softly but firmly. I didn't win. I always had this. You just didn't see it. And just like that, the girl they mocked for years had become the one who held all the power, and they had no choice but to accept it.